Hello guys, welcome back to the next tutorial. We're gonna continue talking about our loops, and in this one we're gonna talk about the for loop, which is most likely the most common looping style. And we'll see all the different we're gonna loop over all the different kind of data style types, right? Strings, list, dictionaries, and all those sort of things. So let's get started opening our PyCharm. So we already talked about that there are some iterable items called strings, list, tuple, and dictionary. And for loop is the most suitable thing to iterate over each and individual item inside those data types. So if it's a string, we can iterate over the string and access each and every character. If it's a list, we can iterate over the list and access each and every item in the list. And same as tuple and the dictionary, right? So let's see all those things in action. Let's first take an example of the strings. I'm just going to define a my string, call maybe simply ABC, and then let's get started with the for loop. So I'm going to write the syntax for C in my string. So this is the syntax, guys, which is, you can see the things in color are the keywords. For is the keyword for loop, in is the keyword to find something inside something. So in is the keyword, and now my string is the variable that I have the strings defined in, and C is the on the fly variable that we just defined. So C is gonna behave like an iterator, which is gonna iterate over the string and access each and individual character inside the string. So this C can be anything. So I put it C here because it's, in my mind, it's like a character inside a string, but you can put anything like BD or BDB, anything. I mean, it doesn't really matter. So it could be any variable name like we do otherwise. So it's gonna put C right now, and let's print out the stuff. So what I'm trying to do is I'm just trying to print out each and every character inside a string. So let's print the C and run the code, and that's what it does, right? ABC. So if I print everything in the same line, what I can do here is I can just put, instead of the new line and I can put the positional variable that's available in the print function, and I can replace that with the space instead of the new line. So by default it's the new line, we can replace it. So if I'm gonna run the code this time, it's gonna print everything in the same line. So guys, that's really powerful, right? And you can do a lot of actions and operations on the strings as well using this thing. So let's do one thing. Let's replace the small a with a capital A when we print out. So it's not going to replace the actual string when we print out stuff. So let's compare. If C is equals to A, because C is iterating over the complete string, and if it finds a small a, then print capital A, and let's put the end, then print the capital A, and else print the same character. So this is gonna print the same character, right? So this is gonna do the job for us. So here you can see it is replacing the small a with the capital A, ABC, and the ABC. So this is just a very small example, but you guys get the feel, right? That we can do a lot of things with the for loop. We can check the characters, we can check for something stuff, and do anything that we want. So it is really powerful and can be used in a lot of ways. So let's move on. Let's just move on to the list. So let's define a list, maybe call it cars, and let's go with our standard cars. So BMW and Benz, and let's take a simple one called Honda, right? So now we have a list of cars. You guys can notice I can just simply print this cars as well, right? So let's print this, and it prints it as a list, right? But what if I want to print the separate items? So what I can do is I can just get rid of this code, and again I can look for a car. This is my variable car in where I'm looking, which is in the cars, and then I can print a particular car. So what it's gonna do is it's gonna print each and individual car. It's gonna access the BMW, Benz, Honda, and print it out. So when I'm accessing it, I can check if it's BMW, do something. If it's Benz, do something else. If it's Honda, do completely something else, right? So we can access those things. We can play around with them. What we are seeing here is, yes, we can work on the list, numbers, anything. So maybe just take a list of numbers. Let's do that. and let's see if we can play around stuff. So let's put 1 2 3. It's a list of numbers, right? And let's do for n in nums, so nums, and let's print n multiplied by 10. So what we are doing here, let's see. So what I'm doing is I have a list with 1 2 3 and I'm printing them out multiplying by 10. So this is just to show you that yes, we can perform operations, right? We can perform a lot of different things. So we took the list, we are accessing each and individual item in the list 1 2 3, and then each item we are multiplying by 10 and then printing it out. So instead of printing it out, we can do certain different actions, right? So that's how powerful the for loops are. You can access strings, list, and so tuple is just like a list, and we can do all those different things like this. We can just replace the square brackets with the parentheses and do all those things. So now let's talk about the dictionary. So let's define a dictionary, and I'm just gonna define it maybe 1 equals 1 key and the value is 1. Again, put the key as 2 and put the value as 2 and then 3. So let's keep our dictionary small. So now we have a dictionary, right? So there are kind of two ways to iterate over the dictionary. So let's take a look at the first thing. So you guys must be wondering what's going to be accessible, right? Because now we have key as well, now we have a value as well. So let's see. So what I'm going to do is for maybe just say key right now, key in D is the name of my dictionary, and then print out maybe let's print out the key right now. So let's print the key. So by default that's what happens. So you guys can see by default it's accessing this, right? And it's accessing the key, so it's printing out in a different order, so don't worry about it. So let's just replace I mean kind of separate this thing out. So star and then multiplied by 20, so you know where dictionary is starting. So what happens by default, guys, is by default it prints out the keys, and that's what it accesses. So that's what happens in the dictionary. But you know what we can do is, once we have the key, now we know how to play around with the dictionary, right? So what we can do is we can print the key and let's separate it out with a space, and now we know the value, right? How we know the value? Because we can access the value from the key, right? So now since we have the key, we can access the value. So it says expected type string got int, so no, that's fine, that should be okay. So we just have to say str and d of k. So that's it, and let's run the code. So what we are doing is, in the dictionary, you guys, let's bring up the code up here. We're first accessing the key. So by default, whenever you put any, this is our own choice, right? This is the variable of our own choice, the k, and d is our dictionary. So by default, it's going to access the key of the dictionary. So it does 2, and then what we are doing is we are putting a space, and then we are accessing the value of the dictionary using dictionary and key, and that's how we access the value of the dictionary outside of the for loop as well, right? So since we have the key, we can play around with this stuff. You guys can then verify each and everything that you want to do. You guys can verify if the key has this value, you guys can check for the key, you guys can check for the value, and perform all those different actions or operations you want on the dictionary. There's one more way though. So let's again put a separator, and let's see what we are trying to see up here. So like the same thing, what you guys can do is you guys can access the key and value both. So I'm gonna put k comma v, it's just again my own variables, in d dot items. So basically I can, because you guys know that, right, we have already seen the use of items. So when we do dictionary dot items, it gives us back both the things, keys and the values. So I can get both the things back. So once I do that, what I can do is I can do print key, and then I can do print value. So basically now I have two variables in the items, and I have both the things. I can print out both the things. So let's do that. And here you see it's first printing 3, which is the key, and then value, and then 2, and then the value, and then 1, and then this value, right? So what we are doing here is, if you want to access both of them separately, you can just put two variables and then access d dot items instead of just accessing d, and then you can access both of the things, right? So instead of printing, you can do anything else that you want, right? So that's pretty much it. We have kind of, just to kind of go over again, this is the strings for loop, right? And then after strings, we have the loops for the list, right? So list for loop, and then after list, we talked about the dictionaries, right? So this is our dictionary, and tuple is almost exactly the same as list. So we kind of already took a look at all the types of data for the for loops. So I would say, guys, just practice a lot as much as possible, and let me know if you have any questions. So that should be it. Stay tuned for the next lectures, guys, and thanks for attending this one.